It's the time has gone 6 o'clock. Can you all mute your computers, please? Get some feedback. That's better. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first full virtual meeting of the Cabinet. Hopefully, all members do understand the reasons why we need to do this, and having seen the death figures today from COVID, there's 1,820 people not with us, and so I make no apologies for the nature of having to do our meetings in this way to try and keep all of our communities and ourselves safe. And I was just speaking to Gary then, the Chief Executive. It's really difficult to comprehend that number of people losing their lives in 24 hours, and it's not a pleasant position to be in, and God bless them all. Anyway, thank you all for attending the meeting of the Cabinet tonight. And in response, as I say, to the current government guidance surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held virtually. Cabinet members and other councillors present are dialing remotely from home, with the exception of myself as the chair and officers required to support the meeting from here in the Civic Centre. For those that don't know, my name is Councillor Paul Foster, and I'm the leader of the council, and I'm chairing this meeting of the Cabinet. Councillor Mick Titherington is the Vice Chair of the Cabinet and the Deputy Leader, and is on this call. Please note this is an audio and video meeting. It has been recorded, and the stream will also be live on YouTube. The link to the Council's YouTube channel is displayed on the agenda for the meeting, and the meeting agenda can also be found on the website. Members are asked to keep their microphones on mute and only unmute when they wish to speak. If you do not mute yourself, the moderator sat next to me will have to do this for you. However, when you do wish to speak, you will need to turn your microphone back on. Reports will be presented by the relevant portfolio holder, after which I will bring the item into Cabinet. If any member of the Cabinet wishes to speak on a report, you should unmute your microphone, please say your name, or use the raise your hand feature or chat function on the top right hand corner to notify the moderator that you wish to speak. And Claire, sat next to me, will bring you in order. After Cabinet has considered the reports, I'll invite comments from members not on Cabinet. If the technology does fail for any member of the Cabinet, I will adjourn the meeting for a short time, and we will attempt to resolve the issue. I now need, please, to confirm that all members of the Cabinet are dialed into the meeting and can see and hear events happening here at the Civic Centre. So, in no particular order, Councillor Mick Titherington, Deputy Leader.
Yes, I can hear you and see you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Mick. Councillor Aniela Bilinski-Gelder.
Yes, I can hear and see you.
Thanks, Aniela. Councillor Bill Evans.
Yes, Chair, can hear and see you.
Thanks, Bill. Councillor Susan Jones.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
And last but not least, Councillor Matt Tomlinson.
Yes, Chair, happy to confirm I can both see you and hear you.
Thanks, Matt. Therefore, without further ado, let's move on. We have no apologies for absence, so can I ask all Cabinet members if there are any declarations of interest? That's nothing come through, so there are no declarations of interest. Thank you. Moving on, agenda item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. Can I propose that the minutes of the last meeting, dated Wednesday, the 16th of December 2020, are approved? Can I have those seconded, please?
Seconded.
Thanks, Mick. Any comments from any members on Cabinet? Thank you. Any comments from any members not on Cabinet? Councillor Ogilvie.
Thank you, Chair. It was just in connection with minute 174 on pages 8 and 9 regarding Worden Hall. In the minutes, it mentions about the questions from the member of the public. However, after that, I did ask a question of the Cabinet member, and I just think it's important that the response to that question is actually formally recorded. I did ask of Councillor Tomlinson if once the scoring was finished, when tenders were returned, if there was two very close options where one option was over budget but delivered on time, and one other was under budget but delivered late, which was the priority, maintaining the budget or being on time? And the Cabinet member confirmed, and I was pleased to hear him say that he would be remaining within budget on this project. I just think it's important that that commitment is formally recorded via the minutes. Thank you.
Hi, Alan. We will record that point, but I would point out to you all that the minutes don't include every question and every answer from every member, whether that be Cabinet or Council. But we will note your comments and add those into the minutes, Alan. Because Matthew, you're happy to accept that here?
Yeah, so I've always been clear in my view, and I think I reiterated it recently at scrutiny. As you said, they're not meant to be a verbatim record of what happened, but if a member wants the comment to be particularly registered, I have no objection to that.
Thanks, that's accepted then. So we've proposed and seconded the minutes with that minor amendment. Is everyone in favour? Good, thank you, they're accepted. Moving on, I've got new glasses, by the way. I need these glasses so I can see the screens at the back and see you all, but then I can't read my minutes with the glasses on that's sat next to me, so it's proving quite challenging anyway. So as we move on then, so the agenda item 4 is the Cabinet Forward Plan. As always, the Cabinet's work plan is published here. What members of the Cabinet will all note, there's a lot of business to take care of over the next few months, which is good to see that it is business as usual, and there's a lot of new exciting initiatives coming forward. But for me, I suppose the major point to note to all members and members not on Cabinet is it's the Budget Cabinet in a few weeks' time, and then obviously going to Council 2 weeks later. Other than that, I have no other comments on the forward plan. Does any members of the Cabinet have anything to add? Any members not in Cabinet? Councillor Mrs Smith.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Good evening. It's just a small thing. On page 16, the first item at the top starts off with the Mackenzie Arms, and I think it's out of order, because if you go to page 18, the second one down, that is also the Mackenzie Arms, because the first one talks about the flood risk. I just thought it was worth pointing out. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret.
Could I come in on that, Chair, just to confirm that it must be a technical error, because mine's looking absolutely as it should do, but the item is River Ribble Strategy and Action Plan, which should be on page 16.
Okay, thank you. Right, Cabinet's asked to note the forward plan, so there's no reason to take a vote on that. Agenda item 5 is the standard item that we've asked to go on all Cabinet and Council meetings. Is there any urgent decisions taken due to the pandemic? There's only one within the report for colleagues to note, and it's the Christmas support payments that we brought in. What I would advise Cabinet colleagues of, though, is that there is quite possibly going to be a couple of additional urgent decisions between now and Council in respect to widening the business support grants locally, because I think as an administration we're not satisfied that there's enough necessarily support for all businesses within the borough, and some of the government criteria is too tight, and therefore we need to get the support out wider. So we're expecting that decision through in the coming days. And additionally, there's a concern within Cabinet that there's still a huge digital exclusion potentially amongst a number of our local schools, the number of our children unable to actually learn at home because of either broadband or IT hardware issues. So the council officers are currently looking in to how we can intervene and support our local schools, and that decision we're expecting in the next week as well. Other than that, do any members of Cabinet have any further comments? Any members not in Cabinet? Councillor Mrs Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I welcome your comments about the initiative regarding schools. I have spoken to the Chief Executive about it 2 or 3 times in recent days, and I do think it's very important that if we can help at all in any way that we should do as a council, and I think the initiative will be well supported. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret, and those your support is welcome, and it really is welcome, because I think many of us, particularly at a local level, there's a lot of talk at times nationally about offering support, and it then takes weeks or months to come to fruition, if it ever comes to fruition. So we're doing what we can do. One of my colleagues said last week, we've got money set aside for a rainy day, and at the moment it literally is pouring. So we need to support our local community and our local children as best we can. Councillor Michael Green.
Thanks, Chairman. I was interested in listening to what you were saying then about possibly widening the criteria for support to businesses in South Ribble, which I look forward to being able to support in due course. At this stage, do you have any idea what you're looking at in terms of the widening of the criteria?
It's nothing, Michael, that can be shared as we speak tonight, but it's been undertaken in conjunction with the business working group, the business support working group. Where we're concerned is specifically on the last round of business grant support on this current lockdown, is there's far more businesses that appear to be excluded, that we're unable to support, that are closed with the government grants, with the criteria as they're laid down. And Cabinet don't feel that that's appropriate when these are legitimate businesses that desperately require financial support. So we're looking at how the criteria can be reviewed, and Councillor James Flannery is on with that now as we speak, and we're hoping to have a decision by the end of the week, and hopefully all members will be able to support this. But to give you some comfort as well, we know where those businesses are as well. We know where they are, and we're already in direct contact with them to see what we can do to offer that additional support. Okay, so I don't think there's a vote required on that. I think that report's for noting, colleagues. So if we move on to agenda item 6, which is the Housing Assistance Policy Review, the Deputy Leader of the Council, Councillor Mick Titherington.
Thank you, Leader. I think this report is brought forward as a result of the housing stock survey we carried out in 2019. And that survey confirmed what we suspected, in that a number of residents were being denied access to the scheme because they were not covered by the policy. Clearly, this is not right, and the amendments proposed are designed to correct that. And by widening the scope of these, those eligible to apply will be able to extend. We will be able to extend the assistance we can offer to those who need it. And in so doing, we'll bring the premises up to a habitable standard, which in turn will contribute to residents' well-being. The information in the report highlights the need for these amendments, and I'm sure all members will welcome them. I'm sure that all members are also anxious to ensure that where such assistance is required and needed, that it is provided. So the amendments that are contained within the report and the new policy is there in the appendix, is designed so that we can reach out to those people who hitherto have not been able to access that support. I think there is, on the appendix, I think it's Appendix B, the list of the reports of the survey. Apparently we were unable to send that out in a particular form, so members had to received that via email. Well, we're working on that particular problem, and hopefully it'll be resolved going forward. But if you look at the survey results, you will see that I've asked officers to produce a summary, which is also contained in another form in Appendix B, which is the stock condition survey briefing. But I mean, I think this is straightforward. I'm sure it will be supported by Cabinet, and I put it forward for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mick. Yeah, and I share and I pass on apologies to all members of the Cabinet and the Council and the challenges that we've had with some of the IT with one or two of the reports. As Mick says, we're working on that as we speak. A couple of points from me, Mick. The results of the stock condition survey were quite interesting. I do, and it's quite concerning as well, particularly when you look at the borough, and you've got literally 12% of our properties have a Category 1 housing, health and safety challenge, which is disappointing and surprising, isn't it? You don't realise the scale of the problem sometimes until you do these surveys. But the other points that I noted as well were the excess cold poverty, highest concentrations in Salisbury and Walton, Hoole, Longton and Hutton West. So these challenges that we face are clearly in all areas of our borough, and it's really pleasing, Mick, to see you bring these policy changes forward, because, as you say, we need to encompass far more homes into the policy so that we can support. And it's pleasing to see that 100% support is being offered now where it is required. So I'm absolutely delighted to second the proposals and invite any questions from any of my colleagues on Cabinet. Okay, members not on Cabinet, Councillor Damien Bretherton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank the officers for producing the reports. I'm totally in agreement with this. I think it's an excellent idea, especially the Green Homes Grant Voucher Scheme. That's a policy produced recently. I'm just wondering, with regard to the Green Homes Grant Scheme, in order for the work to be carried out, the registered installers need to be...
Councillor Bretherton. Yes? I think somebody's washing the dishes there or something, but I mean, I'm unable to sort of decipher exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely not at my end. Somebody else needs to put the...
Right, just a second. If everyone can just check that they're muted, please, and then we'll be able to hear Councillor Bretherton. I thought it was Councillor Bretherton's family doing the washing up as well. Right, okay. Crack on, Damien.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying, with regards to the Green Homes Grant Voucher Scheme, the installers need to be registered with Trustmark. And I'm just wondering if South Ribble have got a list of registered Trustmark tradespeople. I've had experience with trying to apply for this grant myself, and I couldn't find anybody in South Ribble, and very few people in Lancashire. And I'm just wondering what the council's doing about promoting tradesmen to register with Trustmark, so that at least we can encourage local tradesmen to carry out this vital work that needs doing. It is an issue I think that we need to look at. And also, if we can find registered tradespeople in South Ribble, or certainly encourage the tradesmen to register with Trustmark, we should actively market that on our website, so that residents can go to local companies. Thank you.
Mick?
Well, I think the Green Homes Grant has been the subject of a lot of publicity. It is a very complicated scheme, and the experience that you have described has been similar to a number of others. And I think there is only about 1,200 registered, providers who meet the criteria. But I think in relation to that particular scheme, I think representations need to be made to government so that it's easier to access. So indeed, in the proposals that we're putting forward in terms of the amendments is what we're doing. So I suggest that representation should be made to government to amend that scheme to make it easier for people to access. Because I seen a survey where it said that 86% of those people who had just tried to engage in the scheme had said that their experience was poor or very poor. So I mean, it is a problem, and it is a problem that needs addressing. And I don't think it's just about registered builders or registered firms on that. But yeah, it's certainly something that we will continue to look at and hopefully be able to sort of deliver more efficiently to our residents.
Thanks, Mick. The Director of Communities responsible for this area, Jen Mullin, has indicated she wishes to say something. Jen?
I think Mick has just covered it all. I think we have spoken to our local tradespeople, the ones that do our disabled facilities grants, and a lot of them saying it's very difficult and challenging to get the trust mark, and they've got enough work and they didn't want to bother with it. We won't be using the trust mark for this particular scheme, but we have been trying to encourage people to join it. And it's right, there isn't very many tradespeople in the South Ribble area or Lancashire area who are on that trades mark. I think there's about two, I think, in South Ribble that are on it at the moment. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. Councillor Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate what Councillor Titherington is saying about the format of the report. When I first read it, I actually did ring up the officer and ask him if he could explain it to me, because I was really struggling. And then he did actually send one through on an email that did help a little, but it's still a very difficult report to read when you're trying to actually get to the nitty-gritty of what of your particular ward or your area. So anything that can be done in future to actually give us a better flavour of the reports itself and the detail would be very helpful. And yes, I think it has always been a concern that there is an area in the rural areas that does have poverty, and it is very difficult to tackle that. And anything that can be done to alleviate that, I think, will be very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. Any other members? Councillor Ogilvie.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just a bit of clarification I'm after. I mean, there's lots of data in this, and my understanding is that a certain number of properties are looked at, and then that data is then extrapolated across the whole of the borough to get the figures that are in the spreadsheet. Do you know, roughly speaking, what percentage of the borough's properties actually were surveyed in the first place? Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, you're quite right. There was a survey, and it was and the information was extrapolated from those those properties that were surveyed. I have been told, but I just can't recall. But I can let you have that information separately, unless Jennifer has got it now. I mean, I was told of the figure, but I just can't recall it at the moment. But I can get that to you.
It was around 10% was surveyed. So they were sent a questionnaire, and a sample out of that questionnaire was then inspected. But I can get the actual detail through to you in a report.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thanks, Alan. I believe that's all the questions that we have. Okay, so you've proposed that the Cabinet approves the amendments proposed in the report to the existing housing assistance policy. Councillor Titherington has proposed the recommendation. I'm happy to second. Any of the members of the Cabinet against? Okay, good. That is passed. Moving on now, it's unfortunate the exclusion of the press and public. It's something we don't like to do, but we have no option. So may I propose the exclusion of the press and public? Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Tomlinson, thank you. Everyone in favour? Okay, we'll just give us, if everyone can just hold on a second, we'll just cut the YouTube link. Bear with us.